Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Share a paranormal event that's happened to you recently. No bullcrap. Share actual stuff that you've encountered. I'll start. Summer break of high school. My uncle just had a baby and my family decided we should go visit to see him. I volunteered to stay home to watch the dog, but in reality, I don't have that much interest in babies, and my uncle's wife is a complete witch. My family leaves, I say goodbye, etc. A couple of hours later, I get a text from my friend asking if I want to play Payday 2. I say yeah. It's around 9 p.m., and my dog is sleeping on the couch, so I carry her up to my room with me because she gets skittish at night. Put her on my bed, and I sit next to her since I have a laptop. It's about 80 or so degrees out because it's summer, and I can't open my window because a hailstorm recently shredded the screen over my window. I live in a heavily wooded area, so flies swarm in if I open my window, so I decide to keep it shut. Get on Skype with my friend, and start loading up Payday 2. Shit-tier laptop, so it takes a while. I'm making conversation with my friend on Skype. I'm mid-sentence when my door slams open out of nowhere. My dog jumps off the bed and dives under the bed and begins to whimper. Don't believe in ghosts or any of that, so I immediately assume someone has broken into my house. Adrenaline pumping, I grab the pocket knife next to my bed. No idea what a pocket knife is going to do against a robber, especially since I'm scrawny and have never gotten in a fight before in my life. But adrenaline pumping, I check my entire house, find nothing. Return to my room and my dog is back on the bed sleeping. I come to the conclusion my open window must have blown the door open somehow. Put my headset back on. My friend asks if everything's good because I just went silent for about 10 minutes. I say yeah and play for a couple of hours before going to bed. Wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. I remembered my window was never open.
Skeptic here. I've never faced anything remotely paranormal or haunted, despite casually being on the lookout for it. This is my one and only weird, potentially paranormal story. Be like high school age or some shit. My friend Justin and me are driving late at night, past 3 or 4 a.m. Don't remember exactly how or why we decided to check if our other friend Brian was awake. We drove to Brian's house, not secluded or anything, a very suburban area. We pull up and park right at the foot of his driveway. Don't want to pull up closer without checking to see if anyone is awake. We both get out of the car and look towards his house. Note that there are no lights on in his house. The only sources of light besides orange streetlights are these 2 lamps at the base of his driveway, which are behind us, so we're not facing them. Anyway, a few seconds after I stood up from the car and looked at the house, my entire vision went white for like a second or two. Immediately look over at Justin to see he just jerked his neck to look at me. Did you just see that? That white flash? Yeah. Realize it was not isolated to either of us. We get spooked and leave. What the fuck happened to us /x/? It was not a light that seemed to have a point of origin or that faded into view. It was just 1 second I was looking at the house, and the next second my entire vision was flooded with white. I've looked it up and found that your brain can kinda glitch and cause this to happen, but the chances of that happening to both of us at the same time are basically 0.
Around mid-July of this year, my little cousin is over, as well as my grandparents. Everyone is at my parents' house for the week. My little cousin is 15 years old and a huge wuss. Scared of the dark, doesn't like being alone late at night, puts no thought into whatever nonsense is told to him, etc. My parents live in the woods. He always asks me, "What was that noise?" whenever we're outside at night and a strange sound is heard off in the distance, or just something in the house that creaks. He's an only child, rich, spoiled kid. One of the many pranks I stage usually includes a decent workup in which I'll feed him a bunch of bullshit to get him on edge. I usually try to take advantage of the familiar but not so familiar surroundings he's in a few hours to a day before I spring my trap. So the guest bedroom he's staying in is large and the ceiling changes height multiple times, making for a lot of corners. Decide to tell him that demons hide in corners. That's why the Amish make their buildings round, is actually true in what they believe. Anyway, get him freaked out about multiple things. The house was built on a Civil War battlefield. There's an urban legend about a local road close by. There was an escaped convict, etc. Whatever I could tell him to get his blood pumping, get his schedule down, as to know when to best apply the scare. OP's pick related. So, when I know he's headed up to his room to go to sleep, I get in there before he does and do nothing more than throw a blanket over my head and stand on the platform between some couches that are in the room. You know, just to throw off his perception. He walks in, attention on his phone, flicks the light on, looks up and screams like a little girl while backpedaling a solid 20 miles per hour. It kind of ticks off my parents because he woke them up. I get a bit of a scolding. You're too damn old for this. Screw that. I'm using up my vacation time for this. Everyone goes back to bed and I head off to my spot on the couch. My little cousin is about in tears, so we hang out and play some GTA 5 till he settles down a bit. I passed out. Wake up around 4 in the morning. My little cousin is nowhere to be found. Decide I need to find him, just because I'm an adult and shit. Check the usual places, before finally going up to his room to see if he's in there. As I'm ascending the stairs, I hear my name called, Anon, in my cousin's voice, in a soft manner, as would be usual late at night. A bit relieved I found him, kind of ticked I didn't just check his room first. So as I walk into his room, I can see by a dim nightlight off in the corner and some LEDs from the electronics in the room, there's the damn blanket I used to throw over my head with what I thought was my cousin under it standing there. Say, smooth move, Spurg. I just pulled that one. But for some reason I'm kind of uneasy. I stand back instead of approaching it like I normally would. I start to take notice of what I could in the poorly lit room. The blanket, it's a solid 6.5 feet in the air, almost touching the ceiling. My cousin is like 5'8". It's off the ground, but draped over something. Freak the hell out and back out of the room and shut the door. Go downstairs, cut on the TV and rethink every detail I just saw. Think he must have rigged something up. So when it's around 12 in the afternoon, I go back up there to inspect, because I rationalized I was just freaked out because I was half asleep and this was obviously him getting back at me. After some snooping and trying to figure out how he pulled it off, I realized that the blanket was rounded at the top, not like it was hanging from something. Go find him in my brother's room, passed out on the floor where he apparently stayed and slept that night. Don't say anything about it to anyone.
Only thing I got isn't even vaguely spooky, but it does count as paranormal. My sister is a fair amount older than me, and we've always gotten along really well but never keep in touch. I mean, to the point where we'd see each other every Christmas, talk on either her birthday or mine on the phone, and that's it. In 12 years, she literally never called me once outside of that, and I never called her. Anyway, whatever. Last year I was on holiday, and had my first ever grand mal seizure. It lasted almost 6 minutes, which is getting onto the lethal side of seizures in terms of duration. As past a certain point, they basically just don't stop until you're hit with a certain medication, or you die. About an hour after that happened, my sister called me out of the blue. She says she's really sorry and figures she's just being hugely neurotic, but she's had an overwhelming fear that I was in some sort of danger for the past hour or so, and she just decided to call me so that she could stop worrying. That's it. Hasn't happened again, but I've not been in mortal peril since then, I suppose. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it definitely made me think about things with a slightly more open mind.
Be me. Be about 12 years old. Family is poor and we have 2 weeks to pack up and leave. My friend's family invites us to live with them, being Christian and all. His family and my family have been friends for years, so we accepted and packed up to live there. Days pass, and we get there easy peasy. I've been to their house before, so I am already familiar with the interior, especially the long, creepy hallway that has all the bedrooms and bathroom. My friend's room, let's call him Chase, is all the way at the end of the hallway, while the bathroom is sorta halfway in. I never really liked going down the hallway at night unless someone was with me, for its long and narrow structure gave me a weird aura. To make things worse, the switch to the hallway light is all the way at the end. Months pass. I realize that about 80% of the time, I am the one that wakes up first in the house. I get up at about 6 a.m. while the others wake up at 9, 10. Wake up in the early morning needing to use the bathroom. Since I've been living there for quite a while, my fear of the hallway grew weaker as time progresses. I get up off the top bunk of the bed and head for the bathroom. Almost there. I then hear a feminine voice whispering my name, right next to my ear. So close to my ear, I can feel the warm breath on my neck. Anon. I freeze. I stand there in mid-stride for 30 minutes. I finally get the balls to turn around. No one there but the open bedroom door. Decided to make a run back to my room. Try to wake Chase up. He mumbles and ignores me. I sit there on his top bunk and wait for him to wake up. My shit can wait.
I've had 3 events happen to me this year, all of which seem to be of a Christian nature. I should mention at the start that I'm a devout Catholic. The first was, I think, in February, when I was asleep. I was having a dream which was very obscure, and is obscure to me now. What I distinctly remember, though, is wanting to commit some deliberate sin, wanting to sin on purpose. All of a sudden, I hear and feel a voice say, "That seems like a really stupid idea." I woke up instantly and couldn't get to sleep the rest of the night. Then, months later, I was down in my hometown visiting my parents. I had just gotten done visiting with some old friends, and I was driving back to my parents' house. The horizon was wide and clear, and as I looked up across it, I saw the moon blood red. Even as I watched, a shadow covered it, and everything was in darkness. This was in the middle of August, and I was surprised I had missed a lunar eclipse. Then I got online and found out that there was no lunar eclipse scheduled for that night, and that there had been one that month, but that it had been weeks before. Yet I clearly saw what I saw. The third event occurred when I went to the sacrament of confession. This was in September. I was out in the church praying when I was done, and suddenly I heard a bell ringing. I looked around, wondering if anyone else had noticed, but everyone seemed to be unaware or unobservant. Maybe a bell rings regularly in the church during that time of day, but it seemed highly unusual, especially because no one else reacted when it rang. At this point, I'm awaiting the next strange occurrence, because I assume it's coming.
This is my story. No one has believed me so far, and I honestly don't care anymore if you do or not. Be me, about 8 years old, hanging around at my dad's place with my sister, her friend, and my friend, while my dad was away from home like always, movie writer, director, and filmmaker. Let's call my sister Emma, her friend Bella, and my friend Ron. Halloween and dark outside, so we decide to do spoopy stuff in the house. The house is very old. Some parts are from the 40s. Decide to play hide and seek in the house. Me and Ron are seeking, Emma and Bella hiding. The house is dark and silent. Start counting upstairs in my room with Ron. Here we come, .mp3. Search the upstairs first. Walk to a huge closet on top of the staircase. Can easily fit any of us if lying down. The closet is full of bed sheets and pillows, etc. Look in. Clearly a person lying under some bed sheets. Hello? No answer. Laying like a burrito so we can't lift the bed sheets. Touch the person and clearly Bella, judging from the size. Try and take the bed sheets away, but they won't move. Ron barely touches it, and suddenly it jumps to the corner of the closet. It's now crouching in the corner with the bed sheets still on. Fine then, be a bad loser. Go downstairs and yell that we found Bella. Emma stands up from behind a couch. Anon, WTF, Bella is here with me. You didn't find her. Excuse me, what .png? Bella stands up behind an armchair. Hold up. Explain the whole story to Emma and Bella and we're getting real fucking scared. Just go sit on the couch, thinking about what just happened. Me and Ron were scared shitless, not talking. Emma and Bella freaking out. After an hour we went upstairs, everybody pretty much hugging each other. The closet door is open. Not sure if we left it open or not. Peek in. Nothing inside. The bed sheets in the corner, but still no monsters or bums in sight. We left after that, and I went to my mom's apartment with Emma. Tried explaining this to Mom, but of course not buying it. I vomited countless times that night.
This isn't technically an event that happened to me, but still a story nonetheless. Be me, freshman in high school, have a cool English teacher, she's strict, but fair, around Halloween at the time, and we somehow get on the topic of ghosts. The teacher asks if any of us believe in ghosts. No students do, but she says she does. Honestly, I was a bit surprised a well-educated teacher would believe in silly shit, like ghosts. Decide whatever. I still love ghost stories, and ask her why she believes in them. She says she came home from college one day to her parents' house. Parents had a really old house, like Civil War old. She says the house gives off vibes. She's nervous, but goes to bed anyways. Wakes up in the middle of the night with a woman standing over her. She tells us she did the only sensible thing she could think of, and called for her parents. As a skeptic myself, I believe it must have been a bad dream or some shit. If supernatural forces actually existed, there'd be proof by now, right?
This story is an old one of mine, and it happened over the course of about 10 years. Be kinda poor. Just me and my mom, no house, living with my grandparents. Finally get a council house in a nice area. Hell yeah. Last tenant died in the house. Meh, it's a house. The house is a mess. It takes us months to get it looking good. Weird vibe at the top of the stairs. Just me who gets it. During the next 6 months, nothing weird happened except me not liking the stairs, but I was 12, so I was told to deal with it. 6 months since we moved in. Grandparents are going away on holiday. We need to look after their dog. Fuck yeah. First time the dog has been in this house. Whenever we watch the dog, he stays in my room. Dog bounds up the stairs, but suddenly stops at the top of the stairs. Growls, whimpers, runs straight down the stairs and outside. What the fuck? Never once have I seen this dog bark or growl in my life. Finally get him upstairs. Dog won't sleep all night, just stares at my door. Nope territory. Middle of the night, the dog starts going nuts. Wake up, door open. I never sleep with my door open. Mom comes through and comforts the dog. Don't sleep the rest of the night. Been in the house about a year. I'm used to hating the top of the stairs now. Small things never seem to be where I left them. Mom keeps saying it's because I'm a kid and I never put things away. In the toilet. Huge thud comes from my room. Oh, here we go. Mom comes rushing up the stairs. I come out of the toilet. Get the usual from my mom. What was that noise? I was in the toilet, so I have no idea. Both go into my room. CD player lying on the floor. Both look at each other. Never speak of it again. We used to have things like this happen all the time. My mom always put it down to me and always put it down to my mom. This continued for years. My mom got married when I was 15 and things seemed to calm down for a bit. Until... Be about 16, home alone. Music is playing at full volume in my room. Go downstairs for a drink. Music changes song. That's not on my playlist? Get outside my door. Music changes back. To this day, I can't remember the song, like my brain has forgotten it on purpose. Be 18. Finally time to move into halls. About 3 days away from home. Mum calls. Anon, did you take your speakers with you? Yeah, they are on my desk. No, they're at home. I remember putting them on my desk when I moved into the halls. 3 days later. Go home to see Mum. Was at college in the same city. Ask my parents how things have been. They seem nervous. Well, proceed to tell me that things keep disappearing and then reappearing when they go to look for them in the same place. Loads of thumping and scratching noises coming from my room. Doors and windows opening when no one is looking. Grandparents' dog refuses to step foot in the house. They say all this died down by the time they moved out about 4 years later, but I'm not so sure. My mom always said she'd never leave that house because she put a lot of work into it, but I don't believe her.
Not anything super interesting, but I have a few recent things. Not going to Greentext because they are both short. My family went on vacation and my sister and I stayed home because of work, and we go to the same place every vacation. We only have one car at home, so I have to drop her off and pick her up from her work. I would leave the lights on when I drove her to work because it's only like 5 minutes. Every time I got back, all of the lights would be turned off. WTF, I have an energy-conscious ghost. This persists for the week until family comes back. Second story is just an orb story. I came home from picking up my sister from work. As I walked through the back door, I see a large, about 1 foot in diameter orb made out of straight lines go into my room. I go to check it out, and a small area around my door smells heavily like smoke. But it is only in that area and doesn't spread anywhere else.
Hello/X/ been lurking for a long time and decided to share the one paranormal event in my life that I still can't explain. I mean, I'm not sure it's even paranormal and it's not a terrifying story or anything, but maybe you can make some sense of it or baka. Not gonna Greentext cause I'll mess it up for sure. It's been almost 20 years since the events happened, but I still can recall how it all looked when I closed my eyes. Bit of background so you can imagine it better. Me and my grandpa, we used to go fishing a lot. We lived in quite a small town and used to drive our bikes to the nearby river. Pretty small by global standards, which took like 30 minutes to do our fishing. The spot was not a very secluded space, although it was like a 15 minutes walk through some bushes, forests, and fields to the nearby dirt road, and a bit more to some old houses. I was a small kid back then, but we used to go fishing at night as well. We would stay up to maybe midnight, go home and watch WWF on TV. I would get scared, as kids do on these trips anyway. During the night near a river, life starts teeming and every minute there's something moving, splashing, or making other weird noises. You get used to it. Anyways, on that night, we were sitting there with like 4 other guys on the other bank on the river, stating this cause we all saw the same damn thing, so it's not like my childlike imagination was playing tricks on me. The night was pretty dark and cloudy, although warm and almost without any wind. No star or moon could be seen in the sky, so it was very dark around. Just some lights from our fishing stuff on the water and some from headlights we used. We all could see the river waters in front of us quite clearly anyway. Your eyes get used to it after a while. So at some point in the night, I guess around 11 p.m., something I could call a pillar of light appeared out of nowhere. It was similar to the ones in the original photo, but not really. What it was a singular pillar of light, perfect in shape and size, 100% vertically falling on the water in front of us. It created again, perfect circle on the water, around 5 meters wide. It came from very high up above, so high you could not see. It seemed to get thinner the higher it got, although that could be just how optics worked there due to the height of this thing. The pillar was so perfect in shape, without any reflections or haze like the ones in the photo. I mean, its sides were sharp cut like. It looked like a very strong artificial reflector light. However, no light I know of is that strong. I remember thinking it was a helicopter or something, but we heard no sound at all, not even a hint of any machine working above us or anything. I guess what was the weirdest about it is that it stayed perfectly in one place for what seemed like an eternity. But what my grandpa said was 13 minutes. Not moving an inch, I mean, it was still as a rock, not moving even a centimeter, losing intensity or anything. It just stood there, like a solid pillar. After that time, as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone, without a sound or anything. Everybody just concluded that it was fucking weird, decided it's enough fishing for tonight and shortly packed home. We didn't speak too much about it in the coming years since there was not much to talk about, I guess. Still no idea what the hell we've seen, but yet again, maybe some of you do. Cheers.
Short one, but be me, around 10 years old. House is hella big, parents' room is across the hall. Mom and dog are in their own room. My bed faces adjacent to the hallway. Hallway lights are on. I am in my room. Just enough so that I can see the door and maybe 4 feet of the hallway. Hallway lights are on. I am in bed. No spoops. Then I see a shadow of a man walking into my room. The shadow travels the 4 feet and vanishes when it hits the door of my room. The shadow was clearly a tall man, short hair, probably wearing a suit. The visible shoulder was a straight edge. I got hella spooked and just stood still in bed. Around 2 minutes or less later, something shook my bed. I got spooked and hid under the blanket like a baby. Was spooks. I was aware that my house has had many paranormal events that my parents suggested to me, but it wasn't something that ever really fazed me, because I didn't really experience the major spooky things until after this event. Spooky house is spooky.
I once woke up in the middle of this weird dream where I was in a room that was half my apartment, half this weird science lab. Only it wasn't physically separated in half, like a room that had stuff from my room on the one side and stuff from a lab on the other side. It was like my field of vision was this weird Mario Kart 2-player split screen with my room on bottom and this weird laboratory area on top. However, it wasn't like a split screen in a typical 2-player video game. It was like the line was sort of blurry and I had to struggle to keep the bedroom inside my field of vision. If I didn't keep struggling, the laboratory scene would take over more and more of my field of vision. The more I tried to walk, the more visual space my bedroom occupied. The thing that was scary about this laboratory scene, though, was that it wasn't just something in my field of vision. I felt it also influenced the world around me. As I struggled to see my room in front of I also struggled to see the bed I was lying on as an actual bed, and not a research table in the lab. There were people in the lab gawking at me as a research subject. They had placed me under anesthetic, and my whole body was numb. I was struggling to move under the anesthetic. The more I moved, the more I was rewarded with being able to see my bedroom instead of a creepy lab. Anyway, this probably just sounds like a scary dream, but here's where it gets weird. This continued for like several minutes after I had clearly and consciously woken up. There was this period where my heart fucking sank because I grabbed my arm, and I could clearly feel this, and I said out loud, "Oh my God, this shit is real." At first I was thinking I was dying or something, and that this situation of being an animal observed on an operating table in a lab is like the reality that we discover after we die. Like I seriously thought this was some kind of hell. The thing is though, as I kept trying to walk to the bathroom, the scene disappeared more and more to the point that after about 5 minutes, the whole laboratory scene was totally gone from my field of vision. Even at that point though, the feeling of paralysis or anesthesia or whatever was still sort of there in my leg. It took like a half hour until that disappeared entirely. I'm not BSing or trying to say this was a real alien abduction story or anything, but what the fuck was going on in those 5 minutes? It wasn't sleep paralysis because I was up and walking around. And why did that weird feeling in my leg persist for so long after I'd become completely conscious?
I'm not sure if it counts. I was like really young. I don't even know how old. Only thing I know is that I was able to speak and was still in a crib. Logic says it was a dream, but that shit felt real, and I don't really remember much of my youth to begin with. Lying in my crib, waking up, still all lulled in sleep. I think it was early in the morning. It was bright. Windows were halfway open, apparently summer. There's a thing like a mechanical alien-looking butterfly-dragonfly hybrid flying inside. Its movements were erratic. It was directly above me, hovering with these erratic movements. It felt like it checked me out. I pulled my sheets over me in sheer fear of that object. It felt like an eternity until my mom finally opened the door to my room. When she entered the room, I immediately pulled down the sheets and told her what I experienced. As good as a 3 or 4-ish kid can describe things, she told me it was just a dream. I know for a fact I didn't sleep again after I woke up and saw it. I don't know what happened, and it seems insignificant, but I can almost remember it like it happened a week ago, especially the fear I had. And I knew it was no insect. It had a way too mechanical, erratic movement type even for a dragonfly. Never told this to anyone after this day.
This happened a few weeks ago. I moved to a new college living on campus. There's other college housing and frat houses nearby, so I'm used to the sound of parties and such late at night. There's also a U.S. Army base in town, and they play what might be taps or some other horn fanfare at odd hours. I'll hear trumpets seemingly randomly, sometimes several times a night or not for weeks. The point is, I am familiar with the sounds of the neighborhood. but one night I was sitting with my windows open and slowly began to hear a voice from far off. It was garbled and with a flat intonation, like someone was shouting to a crowd. As it rose in volume, I began to hear other voices too. Men, women laughing, talking, crying, and later screaming. Interwoven were other sounds I couldn't identify. In total, it only lasted a minute or two, but it freaked me out. I know what parties sound like, and that wasn't a party. My roommates didn't hear anything either. Probably unrelated, but the Army base played their fanfare at least half a dozen times that day.
Here's my story. A bit messy, I'm afraid, and I wouldn't deem it paranormal, but still freaky. Be me, a kid around 10 to 12 years old, living in a tiny village. Have 4 siblings, can't be arsed to introduce everyone. Have one brother who was around 19, let's call him M, still living at home. M used to be a normal, happy, chatty, social guy, but he started to change in his late teens. He would start isolating himself, start looking out the windows all the time, acting paranoid and mumbling to himself. He was still sweet, but people were getting worried about him. My oldest brother was approximately 25, calling him H. Oldest brother H comes to visit. He moved out to a big city. H brought a videotape, this was in the early 90s, Reservoir Dogs. The movie had just been released and none of us had seen it. 19-year-old brother M hadn't left the house in weeks, sits down with us to watch the movie. H removes the plastic around the cover, opens the box, and pushes it into the VCR. After like 15 minutes of the movie, M starts to look annoyed. He starts to mumble things like, no, stop it, or don't tell me. Me and my siblings are still watching the film, but we are getting concerned. A few minutes later, M starts getting louder, cursing. Oldest brother H gets up, pauses the movie, and yells, "M, what the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?" M sighs, calms down, and says, "They are spoiling it. I hate when people spoil movies." H looks at him confused. "This is brand new. None of you could have seen it before, dude. Quit messing around." H tells M to shut up, stop frowning, and just watch the movie. M seems even more pissed off. H starts Reservoir Dogs again. This is where the messed up stuff begins. Out of nowhere, M starts saying, "I'll show you, they tell me this." M starts to say the lines of the characters in the movie. Before they say them, he starts to describe who is going to enter the room, what they are going to wear. He even mimics their expressions as he predicts their lines. Everything is spot on. We sit there for like 10 minutes, in shock, staring at M quoting a film he hasn't even heard about before. H is baffled, turns off the movie, looks at M, who says, "It doesn't matter, they told me the whole movie anyway, they wouldn't stop." The following 2 years, M started talking to himself more and more. M started predicting small things every other day, like, "A green BMW is going to drive past our house in 2 minutes." He told us about these mean people following him around. When he moved out, he said they broke into his apartment. My parents helped him move. When he wouldn't calm down, they took him to a shrink. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Now he gets meds. He is like a zombie, just a shadow of his former self. But at least he doesn't hallucinate, predict stuff, or talk to them no more.
My psychiatrist can seriously fuck off, diagnosing things that they can't explain based on loose examples given within the DSM-5. I hope your brother gets off those meds soon and realizes that he can stop these incidents through his own will. No one deserves to be a pharmaceutical zombie.
I'm afraid it has been more than a decade since he got the diagnosis and treatment and medication. His meds have been replaced throughout the years, and his condition has been very unpredictable. Some pills made him want to off himself. Some made him introvert. One of the meds made him normal in the right dosage, but finding the right dose was really hard since it depended on his current chemical balance. It seems too late for him to quit now. He has no friends, no job, no life. I think he disappeared mentally a long time ago. I miss him. My eyes are watering now. I don't think he'll ever be the same again. Thank you for your concern.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.